Hello everyone, it is the 19th of June 2024 and I am going to give a diary rather than a lecture, but all my monologues are similar. They usually end up being sermons, lectures, and monologues. So it'll be some of all the above, including a diary. But this is specifically a diary because I'm going to document for a while, seeing how it goes. If the project doesn't work out too well within a reasonable length of time, I might truncate the diary and just throw my hands up and throw in the towel and say, that's it, I failed. Hopefully that won't happen. Whether it happens or not, which I haven't explained yet, I will in a moment. Whether my victory happens or not I don't know, but the journey itself will be meaningful. It will be helpful to others as well as to myself. It will cause me to examine the journey, the road, the path, the formulas. And to cut to the chase, in the last few days I have moderated my prayers or amended them to change a little bit differently, because for years I have been praying, Mother God, Mother God, Mother God. And because God in the late last year, 2023, gave me the vision or the understanding of herself, her, him, whatever you call God, as infinity, the infinite universe and the infinite spirit put together, two dimensions of the same infinity. I decided to try on Saturday the 15th of June. I decided to start praying to God as infinity. And I actually saw a slight, very, very slight sliver of infinity opening up to me. And I got really excited. I thought, oh, I can maybe, if I try harder, reach God once again. Now, what do I mean by reaching God or not reaching God? What do I mean by intimacy with God or not intimacy? What do I mean by the state of perfection or not the state of perfection? We're going to have to really split hairs in this subject. But before I go any further, let me give you the name of the project. What are we shooting for? Where are we going? What is the victory? I am going to try, once again, as I have done before twice, I am going to try to see God face to face. Now, I don't even hardly dare say these words because it is so formidable. It is so beyond human reach, so in the stratosphere, that I have never had the nerve to ever say these words in public, in an article or on my videos and podcasts. I've never had the nerve to say those words that I'm going to try for this. I've never had the nerve, because it is, to the average person, to make a statement like that would be laughable. Even to a person in the religious life, it could be laughable. Even to a person who has never done it, it could be laughable. But there's a difference, see? There's the difference. I have done it. I have done it. That doesn't mean I can do it anytime I feel like it or want to. No, by no means. In the last years, I have thought about it. I've thought about, wow, wouldn't it be nice to be in a state of perfection again, like I was once a long time ago, 1981, for almost a year. I'm not sure how long it was, but it was a good amount of time. It wasn't a few weeks, it was a few months at least. I wish I had written it down, or if I did write it, I probably did write it down, but I don't know where it is written down right now. 1981, I do have records. I do have records of 1981, to be honest. And I do know where that suitcase is with those writings. That was in the old days when I typed on a typewriter. Come to think of it, I ought to look it up. All right. This is going to be so complicated with so many pit stops, with so many gas station stops along the road, so many stop for a creek, stop to pee in the creek, stop to take a water in the creek, hopefully in the right place, not where I peed. um, there's going to be a lot of stops where I explain in detail what I am talking about, because this is esoteric knowledge. This is visionary. This is highfalutin stuff. All right, a few things that led me to this. Now, in the last years, my mind has been preoccupied, like for 2 years, between 21, was it the whole year of 22 and 23 up until the beginning of 24 in March. Wait, maybe I'm making a mistake. No, let me take that back. The whole year of 21 and 22, I spent until the beginning of March 23 writing I Strip for God parts 2 to 10. That was quite a project. It was given to me by the grace of God. God appeared to me on that Christmas of 2020 and gave me the gift. It was an infused gift, the power to write my life story, which I never really had before, completely and totally. The gift to write my entire life story. I've written parts of it, but never the whole life story. And I was able to buckle down, sit down, and do it. Okay, so obviously I couldn't see God face to face then. All right, so other things happened, other things intervened. I got very busy with other things. Now, this is a project that I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I have been inspired by several things. I have been listening to Mary. It should be Saint. They call her Venerable, but it should be Saint Mary of Agreda, who lived in the 1600s and wrote the mystical city of God, which is the life of the Blessed Virgin Mary. She is the mystical city of God. And she has written this life in 4 volumes. It is so exalted, so comprehensive, so exalted, so high up that it is way above my head. I read it. I read it before. I read it in 1981 before I saw God face to face. And I went into a trance for 4 days and 4 nights. On the day I got done reading it, took me about 3 months to read it. So it was part of my interior life. Not saying I understood it then, and I don't fully understand it now, because these are the exalted states and visions and virtues and prerogatives and privileges of the Holy Virgin Mary that are beyond my or any human on earth, our capacities, beyond our capacity. But somehow it was given to Saint Mary of Agreda. It was given to her to know and understand, which leads me to believe that she might have experienced some of what the Holy Virgin experienced. I just can't help but believe that. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. Otherwise, how could she possibly have understood it? I just don't know how a person who knew absolutely nothing about it could have explained it. You see, it's like seeing God face to face. She explains how God is seen face to face, which, and she's the only saint I ever read who explained it. And therefore, I believe that she saw God face to face. So we're going to have to discuss that in a moment. Now, so as I said, I began to listen, and I listened to the entire first part, 10 hours. I don't remember exactly how it's broken down on the audios, but it starts with the conception. That's the name of it. So I listened to over 10 hours of it. Now, I am not saying that this automatically put me on the road, because, mind you, I have tried to listen to the audio of Mystical City of God in the last years. And when I would turn it on, I would just give up and say, I can't listen to this. Why was that? Because I wasn't ready. My mind was polluted, my mind was cluttered, my mind was distracted. So I could hear the words, but I couldn't comprehend. I couldn't connect, is maybe a better word, not comprehend. I couldn't connect with it because my mind was elsewhere. It was not riveted on what she was preaching and teaching. You have to be really concentrated to follow this book. This is not an ordinary book. This is as exalted as any book ever written. And the prelude to this is I listened several times to all four of the Gospels on audio. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I listened to all four of them. Not once, not twice, but at least 3 times, until it was like I was bored out of my mind with it. You know how you hear the same thing over and over, and I've read it many, many times and throughout my life, heard it, read it, listened to audios of it in Lithuanian and now English. This was the first time I think I was listening to it in English. It became tedious, and I said, okay, Rasa, pull back. Now, what is your most, and I have listened to many other books patiently, and accounts of slaves' histories that were fascinating. I've listened to Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, which took like, I don't remember, it was forever long, 10, 20 hours long. I've listened to Great Expectations. I've listened to other things on audio tape. And then I said to myself, Rasa, what is your most favorite book next to the Holy Gospels? Because I really wanted to hear. I tried to listen to the Psalms, but it didn't grab me. So I didn't listen to them. I think I listened to the Song of Songs again. I've read it before, you know. It didn't grab me. So I said, what is your favorite book of all time? I said, well, it's Mystical City of God. Okay, I said, let's try that. So I turned it on, and this time it did grab me. It grabbed me. It grabbed me. So you see, before it didn't grab me. That means I was prepared for it. That means there were preludes, there was preparation, mental preparation, emotional preparation. I was ready. And I listened to it every day as soon as I got up. Not all day. Not all day. And I didn't sit down and listen. I was doing things. But whenever I missed anything, I would go back and I would go back and go back and re-listen and re-listen and re-listen, so that I got a fairly good dose of Mystical City of God. Now, the visions that she explains are so exalted that she ascends from her conception, even before she was born. I know this is so unreal. It's so superhuman. It's beyond belief. But according to Mystical City of God, she was ascending into the Empyrean heavens as soon as she was conceived, while in her mother's womb, and then in infancy. She had visions where she didn't just have visions like dream visions. She traveled to the other side, the Empyrean heavens, the highest heavens. There's all levels of heaven. Empyrean heavens is the highest heavens, high heaven. There's all levels. I know people who are in some of the lower places of heaven, and they, compared to the saints, they're in a dim light. They're in light. Everybody in heaven is in light, but they're not in a brilliant light. They're not radiating light. They're in a lower place in heaven. Okay, so I was ready for this for some reason. I was ready. And then I began praying to the infinite God, and when I saw that tiny sliver, and when I prayed, God, remove the impediments and the obstacles that are here between you and me. On my side, of course, it's not on God's side. There are no impediments on God's side, but there's impediments on my side. I could see impediments sort of flying away or being removed. But this was not an easy thing. This was not a given. This was not given to me, put in my lap. And after that vision, I was not able to connect again, although I tried several times. But the thing that made me really buckle up and say, Rasa, you've been talking, you've been preaching about spiritual poverty, and it is the road to God. You've been talking and talking and talking. Now walk the walk. Rasa, you know the formula. You've given the formula. You've spoken of the formula. Not only that, you've done this before. And you know you've done it. Now, this is unusual for me to think this way, because usually I would say, okay, I'm going to try to be in a state of what's called, they call it a spiritual perfection. That's when you abstract yourself from all things terrestrial. You're a hermit to some degree, wherever you may be living. You may be living in your own house, but you could be a hermit when you sort of abstract yourself and you cut off ties with the world, and you cut off activities, conversations, television, anything that is not necessary with the world, any connection in any way, entertainment, music, anything with the world that is unnecessary, and you have cut it out of your life. And then you become very intimate with God, and I mean intimate. By intimate, I mean you feel God, you see God, you hear God clearly. More so than like I hear God every day, the still small voice, no matter what. Even when I'm not intimate with God, I still hear the still small voice. It's a connection. It's a strong connection I've been in for a very, very long time. Like over 40 years, since 1971. That's a long time. Okay. Okay, where was I? So I said, Rasa, you know the formula, so why don't you work at it? And prior to that, I would try, say, I think I'm going to try to be in a state of spiritual perfection again. And then I would give up and say, I can't. I can't. I'll probably never see God again until I die. I just gave up. I just gave up. But this time something said, do it. Do it. You know the formula. Work at it. It's like this. It's like this. If wait, let me backtrack. Knowing the formula for something does not guarantee success. For example, there's a tightrope, and you can walk on a tightrope. And what is the formula or the secret to success of walking a tightrope and not falling off? Well, you have to keep perfect balance. Absolutely perfect balance, right? Okay, now you know the formula. Does it mean you can walk the tightrope? No, absolutely not. The tightrope, there has to be many factors for you to be able to walk the tightrope. One is experience. The other is you have to have your ear canal has to be a certain way where you physically have perfect balance. Not everyone has what it takes. I think it's in the inner ear, perfect balance. It's the liquid in your ear, the way I understand it. And then again, there's practice. And people who are professional tightrope walkers, they've probably been practicing since they were children. Okay, so knowing the formula, it is not automatic. You've got to walk the walk. I could know what spiritual poverty is. But here's the difference between me and the average Jane Doe or John Doe, John or Jane Doe. It is I've done it. So if I was a tightrope walker in the past and I'm still young and healthy, not old, decrepit, disabled, broken down, crippled with arthritis, but I'm still young and healthy for the tightrope walking, for tricks like that. And I decide, well, I've done it before, I'm going to do it again. There's a chance you'll do it. And so my chances for me to say, I'm going to try to see God face to face, for me to say it, and it's so far-fetched, it's even for me to say it's crazy, it's not as far-fetched as for people who haven't done it. You follow my reasoning here? Now, let me go back just a little bit. When I did see God face to face, by no means had I made it a project, and had I said I am going to see God face to face, I did not compute or conceive is the word. I did not conceive such an idea. No, I did not. But what was I trying to do at the time? At the time, I was not merely, but merely, okay, I guess I could say merely, only trying to get closer to God. I had a impetus, a sense within me that said, Rasa, cut off all your ties with people, with the world. Be alone now. Be alone. So that was my inner sense. Be alone. And of course, I didn't watch television. I hadn't watched television for years. I go for years without television. Television would really upset my spiritual balance. The times when I have been watching television is when I'm really spiritually off the right path, off the holy path, not on the holy path, just a very ordinary walk of life. And when I watch YouTube videos, which has been in the last year or so, I've also been off the path of spiritual perfection, not on the path. Even though half of what I have watched is religious, holy saints, scriptures, but a lot of it is crime shows, curiosities, biographies of people, not saints, things to do with the world that had nothing to do with God. A lot of it, maybe half or less than half, was religious, godly stuff, being honest. So that's when I'm on a lower level. lower level of spirituality. There is so much to say in a subject, I hardly know where to begin. I should have put my book, I put the book Guru Rasa and Her Devotees there on my altar instead of the Beatific Vision, Seeing God Face to Face, because the book is somewhere in a box, and I don't know which box, and I've got hundreds of boxes all over my house. So I didn't feel like going through all these boxes to find it, but it's there somewhere. It should be available in my somewhere handy. Well, one of these days I'll find it and I'll put a couple of where it's handy. All right, to go on. All right, so what we are going to do, and I know that if I don't record, this is just the way life is. I know enough about life. If I don't record my day-to-day experience, the details will be forgotten. And they say God is in the details. The details are vital, they're important, because other people want to walk the path, other people want to accomplish this. I've seen it because I've looked at so many disciplines on the YouTube of all religions, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian. People are hungry to come closer to God. People are yearning. Now, they're not all John and Jane Doe. John and Jane Doe are on the broad highway to hell. It's the saints label, the majority of people are going to hell, not the minority of people, the majority, which I found astounding. But then it is underscored in the scripture of Jesus' words. He said, narrow is the gate, small is the way, narrow, but broad is the highway to hell, and many are them who go there, but few are on that narrow path, that narrow gate. So Jesus said it himself. If Jesus said it, it's correct. Correct? Many are there who go there. Many is the majority. It's not the minority. And it's the minority that go through the narrow gate, the gate of heaven. What percentage? They don't tell us. I've never been told what percentage. And I've never read a saint that knew what percentage. They just said the majority. The majority means more than half. Is that correct? More than 50%. And the way Jesus explains it, many are there that go there and few are there that go on the narrow way. That's a big majority. You're talking 70, 75%, which is staggering. It's frightening. But I've met these wankers when I was trying to start a church in my area and at other times. But, recently, at the beginning of this year, I spent 3 months going to restaurant bars, talking to all the local yokels, some of whom are nice people, but generally speaking, local yokels. And most of them, a lot of them are on the broad highway to hell. A lot of them. A lot of them. Some of them I couldn't even talk to. They were so vile and they cursed and blasphemed God. I couldn't even talk to them. But some of them are not vile. They're just normal, average, nice, but they're on the broad highway to hell. I could go into details, but this is not the lecture for that right now. I'm not going to get into that. So I am just simply going to say, for somebody to sit down and say, friends, I'm going to see God face to face in a month. That's my goal. It's not going to happen in a month. I don't think. If it happens at all, it will be a miracle. Now, back to, I think I didn't quite finish the subject. I wasn't planning in 1981 to see God face to face, but I saw God actually in early 1982, in February 13th, 1982, and March 23rd, 1982. Those 2 times I saw God face to face. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know a human could see God face to face while on earth. We'll get into the definition of it in a minute. But first, let me explain. Something made me be alone. I told all my friends and relatives, don't call me, don't write to me, don't think about me if possible. Half of them took it the wrong way. One man later told me he almost committed suicide when I cut him off. And there was one person I was going to keep. It was my disciple, David, a young guy. He was 16 years old, my disciple, seemed at the time a fervent disciple. I said, do I have to give him up? And God said, yes. You have to give up all people. So even that, see, that was like the last straw. Give up David? Of course, David got angry as hell. So which proved he was not very advanced, and he had purchased the Mystical City of God, 4 volumes, and he threw them, they were very expensive, threw them into the garbage can. That's how angry he was, that I wasn't going to talk to him. I didn't know how long this would take. I didn't know if it was forever. It's just like the celibacy. When I took the vow of celibacy, I figured it would be forever. And after 31 years, God told me, you're going to quit the celibacy, or if you don't, you're outside the will of God. I thought it would be forever. So I didn't know how long I was supposed to be alone without people calling me, writing me, just stay in my apartment, just go out when I have to do what I got to do and come back and not dilly-dally, not go anywhere with anyone, not watch television, no entertainment, no nothing, just praying, reading religious literature, meditating, and going to church, purchasing groceries, going to the bank to take care of bank, whatever has to be done, but not carrying on conversations with people, being a hermit. And that was the happiest I have ever been in my entire life. That was the only time I have ever been perfectly happy in my life. In my life. So I said, Rasa, why don't you become perfectly happy again? This is recently. Why don't you become perfectly happy again? Why don't you do what you know you got to do? So maybe I'm ready. Okay, let's get into what is seeing God face to face. Now, when I saw God face to face, and I'm not going to go into what I saw, but it was an NDE, near-death experience. God said to Moses said, let me see you, God, as you are, when he was talking with the light coming out of the bush. They call it the burning bush. It was a light radiating through and above and over a burning bush, a dry bush, a brilliant light. And God, the first thing God said to him, take off, Moses. He said, yes, I'm here. He said, take off your shoes. You are on sacred ground. He took off his shoes and knelt. And God spoke to him and he said, I want to see you as you are. And God said, you cannot see me and live. What does that mean? NDE. It's another dimension that people don't see until they're dead. But people who become totally dead to self, dead to sin, dead to faults, and dead to attachments. And it's a phenomenon when they can do it. If they succeed, then there is a gateway or a possibility. I'm not saying they do it of their own power, because we cannot rise into that dimension of our own power. Mary of Agreda explains that, and I believe her. I believe her. So once you have done your homework, the part that is yours as a human, and relinquished sin, faults, and attachments, then only then will God lift you by the light of glory. Glory. Remember that. Glory. God does not share her glory with anyone. No one has glory. We don't have glory. As a human, we don't have glory. But the glory is in us because God is in us. But it has to be God. And then, and only then, does God lift you in the light of glory into the heavenly realm. The heavenly realm. Now, what is the heavenly realm? What is seeing God face to face? People have a misconception of God, and they think in terms of faces. And the other misconception is God, the Creator, created us and is apart from us. In other words, God created us and stepped aside. God created, for instance, the planet Earth in 6 days, and on the seventh day, they say He rested. It sounds like something apart, like God is over here and we're over there. But the new vision that God has given me, and I've always believed in what they call non-duality. Not always, but many years. No, not always. Because I was brainwashed in the Christian Catholic perspective. And they see God as creator and we the creation. And it's, they don't see it as accurately as God showed me. God is infinite universe. The physical infinite universe is infinite. And God is the infinite spirit, both. That's the two phases of God. And we are part of that. All life, all creation, we're all part of it. It's not like God created us and stepped aside. It's not like that. Yes, we are created, you could say, in a sense. In a sense, you could say created, but we emanate or arise out of the body of God. When we take physical form, we arise out of the body of God. The way there's a concept, and the concept is like an egg, and out of that concept, which is an egg, arises a life form. A life form. In that sense, you would say we're created. We emanate out of the body of God, out of the infinite body of God. We come out of infinity into a finite consciousness of time and space on earth. The people who have had NDE experiences, they all say there's no time. They leave their body, which means the consciousness of their body. They leave their body and they enter another dimension. And they have many, many different levels and conceptions and experiences, but many of them have things in common. Every one of them says there's no time. There's no time. Most of them do not see Jesus in person. Some of them do. I suspect that those who have visions, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know. Where do you draw the line between a dream and a vision? There's dreams, there's visions, and then there's NDEs. So what I had was Beatific Vision or NDE. I went to the other side twice. I saw myself leave my body. I didn't see my body. I didn't look at my body. I just saw myself going somewhere and appearing in another dimension. my senses were in operation. It was as if I had a body. I could feel cold. I could feel warmth. I could feel water. I could feel touch snow. And I believe that that is how we will appear either in hell or in heaven or in purgatory. It's as if we had a body, but we don't. But our inner senses, because we've got two sets of senses, the outer senses and the inner senses. The inner senses is what goes into operation. The inner senses. Okay, so the experience that I am speaking of is not a dream. It's not a vision, depending on how you define a vision. And again, there are many types of visions. The saints, the mystics give various definitions of visions. There's corporal vision, where you actually see a physical angel standing in front of you. There's intuitive, according to Mary of Agreda, there's intuitive vision, abstractive vision, and intellectual vision. And I don't remember which is the highest, abstractive or intuitive is one or the other. And one of them, I don't remember. I think abstractive is the highest, and it means. But anyway, let's not quibble with definitions and words here. Let's just call a spade and a rose is a rose. So you appear in another dimension. The experiences have tremendous variety, and I can't explain all of them. I am not the Almighty. I am not infinity. I don't know why people's experiences are so varied. I can only conjecture, and I don't want to conjecture here right now, because that's not the purpose of this diary. This is a diary. So what I am trying to do is achieve, first of all, spiritual a path of spiritual perfection. And people love to say nobody's perfect, nobody's perfect, nobody's perfect. Well, screw you. There is such a thing as spiritual perfection. It's a path when you're in a state of perfection. That's the name of it. It's when you're abstracted from things and you're present with God. And that's what the saints lived in. Like, let's say, Saint Charbel, the hermit. He's one of my spiritual husbands. I have 7 spiritual husbands. Saint Charbel, his life is quite well documented, fairly well, not real as well as it could be, but fairly well documented. You can look him up. From Lebanon, Saint Charbel, Charbel. There's been hundreds of thousands of hermits, Orthodox hermits, Catholic hermits, Greek hermits, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox hermits, Christian hermits, anchorites, those who are in enclosure, those who live, in convents, monasteries, people who are lay people, Blessed Anna Maria Taigi, Teresa Helena Higginson, secular people, lay people. They're not in the religious life, but they're saints. All kinds, all kinds. You want to learn about mysticism and God and the paths? Look up the saints, read the saints, look at the saints on YouTube. Look at their life stories, even the cartoons. I've looked at the cartoons. Many of them. They're very enlightening and interesting. Religious cartoons of the lives of the saints, the stories of the Bible. And there's all kinds. There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And you'll learn something from each and every one of them. There is no scarcity of material. If you want to get closer to God, if you want to be inspired, you know, you don't have to look at entertainment of the world. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, so I decided to take this in steps. Now, I knew there are steps to being one with God. It's states of holiness. Oh, Rasa, you're not holy. Screw you. You don't know who's holy and who's not. If Jesus tapped you on the shoulder today, you wouldn't even recognize him. You don't know what holiness is. Those of you who scoff at spiritual people and sincerely religious people, those of you who scoff and ridicule them and make fun of them, you're on the broad highway to hell. I pity you. I pity you. I do pity you. I feel sorry and pity you. You might not make it. I hope you do, but you might not, unless you repent of your hatefulness. But I don't think anyone that has listened this far into this program will be hateful. I think the people that have listened so far are seekers of true knowledge, enlightenment, self-realization, whatever discipline you may be in, whether you be Hindu, Buddhist, yogi, any religion that you're in, Wiccan, Zoroaster, Islam, Jew, anything you're in, Christian, Catholic, anything you're in. If you've been listening this far, it's been 46, almost 47 minutes, you're serious if you're really listening. You are serious about God. You're serious about getting closer to God. You're serious about going to heaven. You're serious about maybe being perfect, becoming holy, becoming one with God, self-realized, enlightened, seeing God face to face. You're serious. I doubt if any scoffer or wanker is going to be listening this long. Now, unless I appeared in person in a low-cut dress, they might. I've had a lot of men do that. That's why I'm not appearing, and when I do appear, it's not going to be super sexy anymore. It might be attractive, but as much as I can be, I'm old, you know. I'll try to look attractive, but not ugly. But I'm not going to try to draw them by my looks anymore. Like, here I am, look at me, that type of thing. I'm not going to try to draw people like that anymore. I want sincere, honest people. I don't want any more shallow, super shallow. We all look at appearance and we all like to see a person in person instead of just a voice, including me. We do. But I've seen people that are really unattractive. Some people old, young, old women, old men, unattractive, and they are getting a lot of views because what they're saying is valuable. Whether it be about health or other subjects, if it's educational, if it's enlightening, if it's religious enlightening, spiritual enlightening, people will watch and listen. And that's the new audience that I wish for, not just the ones that want to see my body or chest, because I was kind of geared in that way before because it was about my life story, and my life story is show business, the adult trade, and so I dressed the part. You can't blame me for that. I did talk a lot about God, but it was part of that whole genre of my life story and show business, modeling, dancing, stripping, etc., and so on and so on and so on. Usually dressed the part. Sometimes I covered up, but mostly I wasn't covered up too much. So now this is a different ball game. This is a different ball game. I would rather have one sincere seeker than 100 who just want to look at my body, or 1,000 that just want to see my body. I would rather have one sincere, seeker who wants to learn, who wants to walk the path closer to God. One. And I noticed that in the mystical city of God, it has very few views. Very few views. The most exalted book on earth. Few views. But the garbage out there, some of it good stuff, but different stuff. Stuff of the world. Lesser stuff, including garbage. Multiple views. Thousands, millions of views for entertainment. Millions of views for sex. Millions of views for sexiness, entertainment. Other subjects that are good. Good subjects. Millions of views. But the most mystical, supernatural, elevated book on earth, besides the Holy Gospel, mystical city of God, it has very few views. What does that tell you about the human race? What does that tell you about the level that humanity is on? Some of them would rather watch garbage. Garbage. They prefer garbage to saintliness. That's the level they're at. Sad case of the human race. Okay, now let's get to the formula. The formula. And I learned this in 1981, and I've reviewed it today, these days, in this era. You can see God, you can be one with God, you can be enlightened, self-realized, or even see God face to face if you remove every impediment, every obstacle that stands between you and God. And there are three basic things that stand between you and God. And they are also the things which make you miserable. And you remove these things, and you will remove the misery from your life. The misery from your life. You will remove the misery. You will be happy. You will be happy. Okay, what are these three things? Okay, the first thing is sin. Remove sin from your life. Sin. Sin is anything where you have a negative feeling and thought. Negative toward God, hateful, hate, dishonesty, stealing, killing, hate, anger, jealousy, rage, resentfulness, strong resentfulness, any kind of resentfulness, covetousness, which is jealousy, cold-heartedness, uncaring, unsympathetic, no empathy, no sympathy, no caring, no kindness, not thinking, never thinking towards God. The first person or idea, if you can call God a person, the first concept you must give allegiance and love towards is God. So if you have a bad relationship with God, if you do not honor God, do not think about God, that's a sin. You don't pray, that's a sin. Never pray, never care about God, never think about God, that's a sin. exclude God from your life. That's a sin. And the second of all, you do that to the least of these, disregard them, disregard their rights, disregard their happiness. All life deserves a chance at happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, just as you do. All life deserves it. Okay, so that's sin. Now, one of the main things that people make a mistake with is lack of forgiveness. They think they have to harbor unforgiveness for some reason. A lot of people think they have to. They're supposed to. If you are unforgiving, you cannot reach God, because your sins stand between you and God, because God cannot forgive your sins as long as you refuse to forgive the sins that others have committed against you. Father, forgive those who have sinned against me. Forgive me for my sins as I forgive those who have sinned against me. In the Our Father, we say that. Okay, so step number one, I've already done it. I've done it in the past, so I didn't have to do step number one, is go through every human being that you can remember that ever hurt you. And specifically, by name, specifically, don't just say, I forgive everyone. You can say that, I forgive everyone who ever hurt me from the moment I was conceived, from the moment I was born. I forgive everyone who ever hurt me. Do not hold their evil toward me against them, dear God. I forgive them. They know not what they do, whatever way you want to put it. And then go through specifically every person you can remember who ever hurt you, that you resent, that you're angry about, that you hate, that you want to do revenge on, that you fear, because a lot of that hate goes with a fear. Because that person has power over you. So don't give them any power. Take away the power by not caring that they hurt you. I've had a man who's been hurting me for many years. And he's hurting me in a certain way. And so I stopped caring about that way. I stopped caring. And as soon as I stopped caring, it took away all his power over me. And it took away my fear, my hate, my resentment, or whatever negatives I might have. It took it all away, and I was free. I was free. So I've done that already. So on this cycle of activity, I did not have to go through that again, because I've recently done it very thoroughly and very adequately. But if you haven't done it and you want to be on this path, you've got to go through that. Okay, but what did I do today? Now, I've done that also. The next thing I'm going to say, I've done this also, but not as thoroughly and adequately. For the record, I went through it bit by bit by bit, and I went through it, and that is this. You must renounce, forfeit, and relinquish the need and the desire for recognition, applause, accolades, praise, gratitude, and a certain kind of love for anything, and even sympathy. Even sympathy. You want to forfeit, try to get sympathy. So I went through my life and the things I have accomplished, which I got no real credit for. And there have been some biggies. There have been some biggies. And I went through them in great detail. In fact, I prayed yesterday. I did this yesterday. I prayed for 3 hours, doing part of it was doing this. I went through every activity of my life for which the world has given me no real credit. And it's hurt me. It's hurt me. It's bothered me all my life. And I went through it, starting with the most important thing. I'm not going to get into this now, though. I'm not, because it'll take too long. And I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. So I went through each thing that I accomplished. And I said, God, I still have feelings. Maybe those feelings have to fade away before I can be happy and before I can see you intimately. But by my will, and remember, it is your will in forgiveness that makes it legitimate. And it is your will in forfeiting recognition also that makes it legitimate, no matter what you feel. You may still feel negative a little to some degree, but hopefully and probably that will fade away until it's not even there anymore. Now, some of you have not accomplished anything major on the world stage. I have, but maybe you haven't. But you've not been given credit on your job. You've not been given credit in your family for things you have done, sacrifices, the work you've done, the effort you've put in, the dinners you've made, the house cleaning, the laundry, the work. Nobody in your family has thanked you. Maybe your spouse hasn't thanked you for the extra mile you went for made an effort. You did special things. You did hard things for your spouse. Or friends. You went out of your way to help a friend in need, but the friend was never really grateful. You gave loans. They weren't grateful. They just tried to get away from you. When you give a loan, people just want to get away from you. They don't want to pay you back. Most of them. Not all of them. There's a few here and there that, that are eager to pay you back, but very few. I've only met like 2 out of 200 that are like that. So that's what I did yesterday, the 18th. The 18th of June. I went through every item where I have not been given sufficient credit. And some of the things I've done are huge, but I have not received huge credit. I might have received an inkling, a tiny, tiny little bit for some of the things I've done. Tiny, tiny, tiny. But people have on purposely blocked me from getting credit. Some people, like the one man I mentioned that I had to get his paws off me mentally. So that was what I worked on yesterday, the 18th of June, 2024. And what am I working on today? Oh, yes, wait, there's more that I did. I prayed to God about my present lifestyle in order to meet my goal of seeing God face to face. Now, you're going to say, now, if you say, or if I say, or if anybody says, because maybe I'm even thinking it myself, Rasa, you're shooting too high. Okay? There's a saying I read somewhere, shoot for the stars, because if you miss the stars, you might land on the moon. And then another thing that came to my mind was, I would rather get up to bat and try instead of bench warming, because I've been bench warming. So now I'm going to go up to bat, and I will try my darndest to hit that fastball. And if I hit that ball, maybe I won't make a home run. Maybe I won't hit it out of the ballpark. Maybe it'll be a grounder and I'll make it to base 1. Maybe I'll steal to base 2. Maybe the next time another person comes up to bat, I'll hit base 3. And maybe I'll somehow make a home run. I made it. Victory. But what have I got to lose when I get up to the plate? Hopefully I won't get struck out. At least I tried, right? I will know. Even if I strike out, I will know I tried, and then maybe next time I'll say, well, last time I got struck out, this time maybe I'll make it to first base or whatever. I might make it further. So when you need a goal, when you want a goal, anything is better than bench warming, isn't it? Bench warming. All right, so now I ask God about my lifestyle. Okay, God, now, on this lifestyle, I know there's certain rules. So I need you to straighten me out on what I can do and what I cannot do. So I said, what about the YouTube? So God, my inner voice, I'm not talking about the Almighty came from the Empyrean heaven to talk to me. I'm talking about the still small voice within me that I can hear every day. I said, what do I do about the YouTube? Because I've been watching YouTube quite a bit. So God said, don't look at anything that is frivolous or curiosity seeking, the secular things that you don't need to look at, the entertainment, the crime shows, murderers. Don't look up murderers and what they have done. That won't help you. Don't try to entertain yourself right now. Let God be your only goal each day. Said, not even like you don't want me to listen to Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and all that classical music I love. And God said, not for right now. Let go of that right now. Don't go for that. What about the religious shows I've been watching? Joseph. Joseph is about the Joseph with Pharaoh who interpreted Pharaoh's dream about the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine and what happened there. And I'm watching a very beautiful movie on that. And God said, you can watch that. Anything to do with God, religion, saints, scriptures, you can listen or watch any of that, of course. Definitely listen to Mary of Agreda every day. Mystical City of God. Definitely continue that every single day. And amazingly, in the last 2 days since I stopped looking at all secular stuff and stuff just out of curiosity, in 2 days I've done so much more with prayer and meditation. It's just another level. And I feel much freer and cleaner just in 2 days. Freer and cleaner. What about when I go shopping? Because I don't go anywhere except to shop. I shop mostly for the wild animals I feed every day. I have to go to the stores now twice a week because I run out of all kinds of stuff quickly because they eat a lot. And certain things I have to have for them. And I can't carry them all at one time now. There's so much I need. So God said, well, just cut your conversations short, not so much chit chat and, just frivolous talking. Try to make it brief. When you speak to people, make it brief. The ones you habitually just bullcrap with, try to cut that out. Because there is like a couple of people that one man in particular, he's infatuated with my body, my boobs. He's always staring at my chest. So I end up talking to him a little more because he always tries to talk to me. He's the guy in the grocery store. So I'm going to cut my conversations with him. What about the lady that I pray with and read religious books with every Sunday? You can do that. Try not to belabor your conversations any more than besides, religious. There's always something that you have to discuss, but keep it brief. Keep it brief. Keep all your conversations that are not of God brief. Very brief. Just polite. Polite mostly. Polite. Courteous, polite. Don't be abrupt or unkind. That would be a fault. Okay, what about dancing? I can't walk anymore to speak of because it hurts. So I don't do much walking. I only do the walking I have to do. And I don't dance except sitting down. I dance sitting down. So I played all winter. All winter I would play my music, mostly Charleston music. I like the beat of Charleston for my sit down dancing. And it would keep my legs active because since I'm not walking, my legs would lose their muscular strength and their muscular agility. So the dancing I felt was doing a great deal of good for my legs and my body and my mind to some degree. That's in the winter when you don't go out much except to do what you got to do. You don't lollygag outdoors too much. I don't anyway. Some people do because they like cold. They're good with cold. I'm not good with cold. Even if I'm dressed very warmly, I'm not good with cold. But I'm very good with warmth. But never, and I haven't been dancing since it got warm. I haven't been dancing, but I asked God, what about dancing? Can I do that? Or is that out? And God said, you can dance. In fact, do your dancing. It's good for you. It's good for your health. But don't listen to the music unless you are dancing and doing what it is purposed for. By all means, do your dancing. So that made me feel good. That took me off the hook of feeling a little bit afraid. Oh, God might not want me to dance anymore. It's too much of a secular thing. Okay, so that is, I'm trying to think. Oh, so I prayed, God, take away my faults. I'm not sure what my faults are because we're usually blind to our own faults, aren't we? We see the flint, or not the flint is the wrong word, the sawdust, the little bit of sawdust or a little toothpick in the other person's eye. Toothpick is a bad analogy. I can't think of it when you have a little sawdust flake, a little flake of sawdust. You see that in the other person's eye, but you don't see the plank in your own eye. Jesus said that. Before you can help your brother or sister with the little piece of sawdust in their eye, you've got to remove the plank from your eye. So, that being said, I'm saying that I'm trying to be aware of my faults, but I'm not fully aware, and I'm trying, because we blind ourselves to our own faults. We always excuse ourselves for everything we do. And I can tell you this, one of my faults is not gluttony. It is not gluttony, because in the last almost a year now, almost a full year, it's been about 11 months and 3 weeks. I have what am I saying? I have lost 44 pounds, which means I have been fasting It's not intermittent fasting. I've heard that one before. Oh, you got to do intermittent fasting. I'm fasting every day, my friend. Been fasting every day. I went down from 164 to 121. My goal was 124, between 124 to 125. And then after I reached my goal, which was a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to just maintain. And in trying to maintain without on purposely doing it, I lost 3 more pounds. Just trying to maintain. Just trying to maintain. I have conquered my appetite. So I'm very happy, proud of it, not proud in a sinful way. Heavens forbid. That's all I need, more sins. Very pleased with myself that I, by the grace of God, accomplished this goal. Thank you, dear God. I couldn't have done it without God's help. Couldn't have. Impossible. And you people, especially women who know, who have been fat and who know how hard it is, or overweight, know how hard it is, easy to gain and hard to lose, you will have respect for this. So I have been, that is another thing I've had in my favor, because Jesus said at one point when the disciples couldn't get rid of some demons, some terrible demons that were in this father came with his son that was having fits and throwing himself in the fire and frothing at the mouth, and he went to the disciples and asked them if they would get rid of these demons, and they couldn't do it. And Jesus got rid of them. Jesus got rid of the demons. And they said, Lord, why couldn't we do it? And he said, well, this kind will only come out with prayer and fasting. So fasting brings you, if you fast for a reason, a good reason, not just vanity, because mine started out with mostly vanity, but then I segued it into help the souls in purgatory through my fasting, because I was suffering. I've been suffering. But now I have conquered. That's why I kept losing, even after I reached my goal, because I had conquered my appetite, which took me a very long time. A very long time of discipline, a very long time of pain. Hunger is pain. But I beat it. I beat the pain. I beat the gluttony. I beat the yearning for food. I beat it. I beat it. I eat. I mean, I'm not anorexic. But I have conquered the obsessive need for food, because it gets obsessive. Oh, I must eat now. I gotta have this. I gotta have that. It gets obsessive. So I conquered it. It's kind of like my celibacy a long time ago when I first took the vow, 1978, May 27, 1978. The first 2 years were very hard, but I beat it. After 2 years, I had beaten the lust, the sex desire. I had beaten it. I'd stopped it. And after a while, I was so comfortable with celibacy. God appeared to me after 10 years and said, would you like to quit your vow? And I said, no. And God said, because it's done its work. Huh? No, I don't want to quit the vow. See, I was happy. And then 10 years later, 20 years down the line, God appeared again and said, do you want to quit your vow? And I said, no. I thought about it a little bit. And I felt very agitated and tense and nervous about it. I said, no, I don't want to quit the vow. I don't want to. Why? Because I was free. What price is your freedom? Freedom from yearning for food, yearning for sex, yearning to be held, yearning. You're not free. You're chained. You want to be free. And then 10 more years went by and God appeared again. Do you want to quit the vow? Nope. And God said, this time, if you don't quit the vow, stop suffering. Well, I wasn't suffering, God. I wasn't suffering. Why do you say that? God meant, suffering a certain way, a religious way, I guess. Said you have to go out, have fun. Have fun, drink, have fun. I didn't want to, but I did it because God told me to, and I became a cougar for 11 years. And let me tell you what, when it ended, when the time ended and I felt that I was off the hook, God would leave me alone, I was happy. And I've been free ever since. And that was 2019-20 when the COVID came in and all the clubs were closed and I couldn't go there, doing my thing down there downtown with all the bars, the college kids, and all having so-called having fun, which was really the Twilight Zone. This is the other place. The Twilight Zone. It was not happiness. It was misery. Another different kind of misery. I was happy. But for some reason, God wanted me to go out there and meet people and be one of them. I still don't know exactly why, and God doesn't want me to know, but someday God will let me know. And I'm not curious anymore. I give up my curiosity. That's another thing I'm going to give up. Because Mary of Agreda teaches that you shouldn't have too much curiosity about everything, including the future. Que sera, sera. What will be, will be. Stop questioning everything for a supernatural answer. Let it go. So I let it go, God. You don't have to tell me why. I did it. I obeyed you. That's all that counts. All that counts. What is my reward? My reward is loving God. My reward is being closer to God. My reward, instead of human recognition, what is, back to recognition now, we're jumping back to that. What is recognition, human recognition? You can't take it with you. Just like you can't take all your material bullcrap with you. You can't take those jet planes, Benny Hinn, Kenneth Copeland, and all you prosperity preachers. You're not going to take all your garbage with you to the other side. You're not going to take your mansions, your limousines, your servants, your highfalutin lifestyle. You're stopping over at Dubai for a $50,000 weekend, good time, whatever else you're doing. Whoring probably, but they don't tell you that. All the things you do, the fancy suits. Benny Hinn probably has his suits made by some, highfalutin tailor, designer, whatever. He's probably got 500 suits, white ones. You can't take all this crap with you. This crap means nothing. What are you going to take with you on the moment you die and your soul is separated from your body? And remember, and I kept in mind again, Satan, be gone. I will give you all the kingdoms of the world and their glory if you bow down and worship me. I kept thinking of that. Say, I don't want his glory. I don't want his bow. I'm not going to bow down and worship him. I'm not going to give him a split second of my time. Shall worship God and her alone. I only want God. I want God's happiness. That's all I can take with me. What I've done in charity, what I've done in love, the sacrifices, the fasting, the praying. I'm going to keep praying. That's one of the prerequisites of my present day life is praying every day. Every chance I get. Pray, pray, pray. Pray at night. Pray in the morning. Pray in the day. Like I used to pray. And I don't know how long this project will take me. If I succeed, I don't know, but I'll try. I don't know if all like I'm not listening to Beethoven or Tchaikovsky, but I can keep hearing the last symphony I listened to was the Second Symphony by Tchaikovsky. I can hear it playing in my head. I don't know if all that has to fade away from my head before I can be free of it. I don't know. Maybe all my memories I have to be freed from all these memories and all these melodies. Because memories can haunt you. Memories in your head. Given free rent space in your head for memories can hold you back. It's an attachment. I forgot to say the third thing. Oh boy, that was a big thing too. The third biggest thing that you must renounce is attachment. Attachment, and that's important. Attachment. All right, attachment includes addictions. You could be addicted, you cannot be addicted to anything of the earth in order to see God face to face or to be in a place of spiritual perfection. You cannot be addicted to alcohol, to food, to anything of the world, attached to anything of the world in an addictive way. You cannot be in love with anyone. That's an attachment. Only with God, the concept of God. And I know that's too bad, but you cannot be in love with anyone. No, you can't. Not higher than God. You can love someone in charity. In charity. But you cannot be in love in an addictive way. When I was in love, when I was during those years of cougaring, I lost my intimacy with God completely. And I was mostly because I was, for many reasons, but one of them was when I was in love with someone. That threw me right out of the water. I was a fish outside of water, spiritually speaking. I was outside the water. And finally, when I ended it, I had to end it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I had to end. I had to stop. I had to keep loving him in a charitable way, in a caring way, like a mother with a son, but not in a obsessive way that I was loving him. I had to stop that to get my freedom. And I got my freedom back in 2019. Okay, so attachment is you're holding on tight to someone. You can still have interest in things. I mean, I'm interested in the wild animals outside, but I'm not obsessed with them in the sense of attachment. You know, I feed them every day. The wild animals in the woods come to my house every day. I feed them every day. I look at them. I feed several raccoons by hand, and that gives me a great deal of joy. But that's not like an obsessive attachment, believe me. Okay, attachment, what else? What else? I said food, drugs. A lot of people are addicted to food or drugs in these days, or alcohol. You can't. You can't. That's another thing I forgot to say. I quit when I started fasting. I also quit drinking. I drank beer and whiskey almost every day. But I've never been like an alcoholic, you know. I could always quit. Sometimes I drink for a year or two or three, and then I quit for 2 or 3 years. I've always done that. But anyway, I quit. Now, if it was a bad habit, I'd be in trouble. I, I, I suspect, I don't know, I have to pray to God about that. Can a person drink mildly, like 2 or 3 drinks a day? Would that be an impediment? But I'll talk to